So friends, today we'll be focusing on the topic endometriosis. So first, let's define. So endometriosis is the presence of the endometrial tissue in the sites other than the uterine mucosa. So simply, we could say it is an ectopic endometrial tissue. And another definition for endometriosis is it is a benign hormonal dependent disease which is based on endometrial heterotopy after disorders of hypothalamic pituitary ovarian system, immune disbalance, along with presence of a genetic inclination. So when I talk about endometrial tissue, I mean both the gland and the stroma. So there is a deposition of the endometrium apart from the site where it is supposed to be. And around 10 to 25% of the female population suffer from endometriosis, and most commonly it is associated with Europeans. And the peak age is around 30 to 45 years, which is around 4th to 5th decade the disease peaks. So here we can see an image which shows endometriosis. So these are the ectopic endometrial glands which are present. So here you can see the ectopic endometrial glands which are in the ovary, in the region of fallopian tubes. So they are supposed to be here in the endometrial layer of the uterus, but now they are placed ectopically in other places. That is why it is called as an ectopic endometrial tissue. Now we'll see what are the common sites where these endometrial tissues are deposited. So the most commonly they are found in the abdominal region, but generally they occur at any site, but usually they are confined to abdominal below the level of the umbilicus. Secondly, we have the extra abdominal sites. Commonly they are seen in cases of abdominal scar during hysterectomy, your C-section operations, tubectomy, episiotomy scar. All these places there is predisposed factors which would lead to ectopic deposits of endometrial tissue. Also in the vagina and cervix. The most common site where we can see endometriosis is in the ovary, followed by pouch of Douglas. Pouch of Douglas is nothing but the rectouterine pouch. Then we have the pelvic peritoneum, and the rarer sites include umbilicus, lungs, and kidney. Just remember the fact it can occur anywhere, your arms, legs, nose, anywhere in the body. Most commonly it is found in the ovary. Okay, now let's move on to the pathogenesis of the disease. So as far as the pathogenesis is concerned, it is still unclear why endometriosis occur. But the most famous theory for this disease is the retrograde menstruation and implantation theory, also called as the Samson's theory. Samson's theory, which is the most popular theory which describes endometriosis. So this theory states that there is presence of retrograde menstruation which would lead to ectopic deposits of the endometrial tissue. So once again we'll go into the picture so that we could understand this thing. So here you can see generally the menstruation occurs this way, the shedding occurs this way, and then exits the body. But the theory states that there is retrograde menstruation which would follow through the fallopian tube and then deposits over the other sides. So this is the theory which is stated by Samson, where there is retrograde menstruation happening. But now the most important point here is almost 80% of the women have retrograde menstruation. So the ultimate reason for occurrence of endometriosis is there is a probable underlying genetic or hormonal factor which is predisposing the factor of endometriosis in certain group of females. So this is all about the retrograde menstruation theory. And these ectopic glands, they would respond normally as the normal endometrial glands to the estrogen and progesterone and would bleed. And even though they bleed, they have no way to exit. So now we'll focus on the pathological aspect of the endometriosis. So we can see the powder burn lesions or blue spots which are seen on the uterosacral ligaments or the pouch of the Douglas, which is more commonly seen in cases of pelvic endometriosis. So most commonly seen in cases of pelvic endometriosis. And then we have the classic chocolate cysts of ovary. That is because the ectopic endometrial glands, if in case they are encysted inside the ovary, the glands would cyclically respond to the estrogen and progesterone, and they would cyclically bleed. And these bleedings would not have a way to exit the body, so they are deposited inside the ovarian cyst and ultimately lead to a chocolate color. Thus we call them as chocolate cyst of ovary. And then we also have scarring and adhesions in the fallopian tube, which is the reason for infertility in cases of endometriosis. Now we look at the common symptoms during endometriosis. So the most common symptom is dysmenorrhea, which is seen in more than 70% of the female, which is a painful menstruation. And then we can see dyspareunia in 20 to 40% of the female. And then there is abnormal menstruation. Most commonly it is menorrhagia. And then we also have infertility, obviously due to the scarring and adhesions in the fallopian tube. And then we also have chronic pelvic and abdominal pain. And there are also other symptoms where we can see cyclical leg pain, sciatica, cyclical rectal bleeding, hematuria, and hemoptysis. Basically, it depends on the site of the deposition of the ectopic glands. Now we'll focus on the diagnosis of the endometriosis. So as far as the diagnosis is concerned, we have a clinical triad. The most common clinical triad in cases of endometriosis, we have a secondary dysmenorrhea, dyspareunia, and infertility, which is a classical clinical signs of an endometriotic patient. Then we have certain serum markers which are helpful in diagnosing endometriosis. The most commonly used are CA125. Then we have placental protein 14, and we also have MCP1. MCP is nothing but a monocyte chemotactic protein. So all these serum markers are elevated in a patient with endometriosis. And then we can conduct physical examinations like normal pelvic examination, where we can detect pelvic tenderness or nodules in the pouch of Douglas, and there might be bilateral adnexal masses. And rectovaginal examination is also very helpful in diagnosing endometriosis. Next, we have the imaging modalities like ultrasound, MRI, and CT, which is also helpful. And then the gold standard to diagnose endometriosis is laparoscopy along with biopsy of the obtained tissue. Now we'll focus on the treatment modalities for endometriosis. So as far as the treatment is concerned, we have medical management and surgical management. So firstly, in the medical management, we have hormonal therapy. So the primary drugs we use include combined OCPs, which is the oral contraceptive pills, which would cause an anovulatory cycles. So anovulatory cycles are basically painless. In that way, they relieve dysmenorrhea and they also limit endometriosis. The next thing we use is danazol tablets, which are anti-estrogenic, which are basically androgens. They cause a faster atrophy. And we also have to bear in mind that there are common side effects which are associated with danazol, which include hirsutism and virilization. Obviously, they are androgens and they are prone to side effects such as hirsutism and virilization. Next drug, we have injections of depomedroxyprogesterone. They are depot preparations. So we give 150 mg once every 3 months. They produce a pseudo pregnancy state. That way they limit endometriosis. The next drug is GnRH analogs, which include leuprolide, nafarelin, and goserelin. They kind of produce a state called medical oophorectomy. In the sense, they downregulate the pituitary receptors. That way they cause atrophy of the ectopic endometrial glands. The next modality, we go into the surgical therapy. There are like 3 options here. We have adhesiolysis in cases of adhesions. And then we have cystectomy if we have the classical chocolate cyst. And then we have laparoscopic excision or ablation with the help of thermal or laser apparatus. So this is all about endometriosis.